This is VRoc. 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 Chops. This is VRoc Chops.
Welcome back, Chop Nation. We back with a very special guest. This is, I mentioned it at the end of the other video, but this is my very first band teacher ever in my life. And not knowing then what I grew to learn over the years that he was a, well, no, let me take it back. I knew he was a drummer once I got in class. We'll talk about it. Give it up for Mr. Teddy Hall Jr. So give me, you gotta clap your hands. All right,
This
so
is
how you
VRoc
doing, bro?
Chops.
I'm doing well, Vince. It's good to see you. You're
Man.
looking well, highly favored and blessed.
Man, yes, sir. I appreciate it. Same to you. Same to you, bro.
Yeah,
Same to you. I
yeah.
appreciate you taking your time out your schedule, man, to
Oh,
chat with me
anytime.
today.
Anytime, Vince.
Yeah, no problem. So cool. Well, we're gonna jump right on into it, bro. All right.
Mhm.
I'll start the same old questions. What high school did you attend? And he went to college, but I gotta say it. And what college did you attend? If you attended college, for the people that don't know, Prof. Prof. Hall. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I know Prof Lane probably talking about me in a good way.
All right.
He probably called me. We talked just about every other day.
Yeah,
But
me too. Me too.
seriously, I went to a high school called Midfield High School in Birmingham. Well, it's right outside of Birmingham. It's in Midfield, Alabama. I'm from Birmingham originally. And coming out of high school, my counselor we talked to my parents. They were, trying to decide, should I go into music or do something that I was pretty good in aside from music, which was math and science. And my counselor was like, well, my brother doesn't make a lot of money as a band director. So long story short, I went to Tuskegee University as an electrical engineering major and was there for 2 years. Was in the marching band, the jazz band, and also played with the Tuskegee University Gospel Choir and the symphonic band. Well, when I got to calculus and electrical circuits class my second year, I was like, no, this is not for me. And the director of bands at the time, he's retired now, Warren Duncan, was a graduate of Florida A&M, influenced me to consider transferring to Florida A&M University because Tuskegee did not have a music major degree. You could minor in music, but you could major in it. So after doing 2 years at Tuskegee, starting out in engineering, I auditioned and transferred to Florida A&M and was accepted, made the Marching 100, and was, there as a music ed major and played in all the ensembles, percussion ensemble, Marching 100, wind ensemble, symphonic band, jazz band too. Played with the Tallahassee Dick Band Community Orchestra with my teacher. And it was good. The only thing was, not being out of state, I didn't have a lot of scholarship money. My parents would always say, well, we got another mouth to feed, so we can't always send you money when you call. So I said, I'll transfer and move back home to Birmingham.
It's party time. No changing. Time to speed. Showtime. Accelerator. And your love is done.
what I did, I transferred to UAB and still in music ed, and I played for churches and worked part time at Office Max, played other gigs uh, to help, just pay, and I finished UAB in '99, and my first job was in Memphis City Schools at Haven View Middle, which is where you were my student in sixth grade.
Yeah.
So that's how my journey started.
Oh man. So Prof had that same old hustle and bustle of the college life to make it, man.
Oh
So
yeah,
young people
yeah,
that's watching, man, listen, don't get discouraged by hard times in college. It's a part of the grind.
that's
Cool.
right, that's right.
Cool, Prof. All right, I can't wait to jump back into the beginning so we can talk about all that.
Yeah.
All right, so what is your favorite drum rudiment and why do you consider it to be your favorite?
Well, I like the single paradiddle,
Okay.
and the reason I like the paradiddle is because it has um, the diddle and the accents, but it kind of I like it because you if you work out of the book Stick Control, I believe it's number 5, the sticking for the paradiddle. When you play it, and you can play it without the accent, or you can play it with the accent, or shift the accent around and make it groove. But you can also apply that to drum set. And I like when I'm teaching a private student, or if I'm playing myself, just playing a paradiddle groove between maybe hi hat and your snare, or your snare and your toms, floor toms. But that paradiddle, if you can play paradiddles clean, then you got some good stick control.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Prof paradiddle. Just recently we had another Swiss, but those been very, very
Hmm.
continuing through this little
Yeah,
series.
yeah.
So yeah,
Okay, cool.
cool. All right. So for you, when was that moment
Hmm.
that you knew, whatever part of life you can remember that you like, hey, I want to play drums. This is what I want to do. I don't want to do nothing else. Think about no other instrument but drums. This is what I want to kind of push into. What was that moment for you?
Well, I grew up watching my cousins play in church, and I'd always been beating on pots and pans, and so I would take a coat hanger and tear out the cardboard and just
Yeah.
practice. So my parents kept buying me J.C. Penney drum sets, and I tear them up. So my dad bought me my first real drum set at the age of 6. It was a Ludwig drum set, and it was a 3-piece. And got in the band in 4th grade and stayed in band, through college. But really, seeing Mr. Duncan and Dr. Sheila James at FAM, that influenced me to know that I wanted to be not just a band director, but to teach percussion at the college level. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I knew then from seeing both of them play and just talking to them, uh, and specifically being Black men that were successful at what they were doing, because they both were kind of like father figures to me. That's what pushed me, and I even had a greater push going to graduate school at the University of Mississippi with my teacher Ricky Burkhead, who is still the only African American there in the music department. So I would say those 3 people influenced me, undergrad, grad, and you know the rest is history. I just knew that was my destiny.
Cool. Yeah, Prof Lane told us Mr. Burkhead was one of Prof Lane's students, so that's how I
Oh
found out
yeah,
about him. Yeah, yeah. So
yeah, yeah.
that Johnny Lane tree is real long.
Yeah, and so is a lot of people don't talk about it. Pedro Ori, I call him Uncle
Yeah.
Pedro.
Yeah.
He and Burkhead were classmates at Mississippi Valley State, and William Bethea up in Norfolk State. I mean, Marvin Spot. That the list could go on and on and
Yeah.
on. But yeah, like you said, we look at these coaching trees.
Yeah.
We need to study the teaching trees.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
That's right. That's
Cool.
right.
So, what is one of your most memorable or favorite moments as being a percussion, whether it was, playing, teaching, or whatever,
Hmm.
what's one of your favorite memories from being a drummer?
Oh man, I have so many. I think one of them I can look back to. We had a event, they don't have it anymore, called City Stages back in Birmingham. And
Hmm.
I played with this local R&B group. I went to middle school with one of the lead singers called Black and Mild, and we were playing. It was in June, It's at in Birmingham at City Stages, and I was playing drum set behind them. And the group was hot, man. I mean, the people still exist, but that group doesn't. But that was one of my moments because we were locked in. We had been practicing, and I believe, if memory serves me correct, they were about to go on road to open up for Escape
Mm.
at that time, or and maybe some other popular R&B groups. But just playing at that City Stages, it was an annual event, outdoor event in the summer. And I looked up and we just saw the whole street just back, and I was like, man, it was just cool to do that. Of course, I was still in school at the time. I was just home for the summer, but uh, that was just fun. It just
Yeah,
felt good doing that.
cool. That's cool, Prof. Cool,
Yeah,
man. Yeah, gigs are fun, man. Gigs are
they
fun.
are. They are.
Yeah,
They are.
yeah. Cool. So, what is so your biggest takeaway? The question will be, what is one of the biggest takeaways that you have
Hmm.
gained over your years of experience? From teaching and playing from when you were younger that
Hmm.
you apply to what you do now with teaching and playing, or life
I
lesson.
got
Yeah.
you. Okay. Well, one thing I would say is trying to not be academic, but be relevant.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, I mean, when we go to school, we learn, certain techniques and certain fundamentals and da 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 da. But I always try to stay relevant. And by that, I mean, I try to stay knowledgeable about, well, what's trending, what's happening now. And I'm not saying that I go every which way the wind blows,
Right.
but in order to reach the students that are in front of me, I have to always be mindful, even though I may have all this knowledge, what do they need?
Mm-hmm.
What's the best way of communicating that knowledge to them? And so I try to maintain a flexible attitude and an adaptable attitude when you're in whatever environment you're in. uh, Learn how to build a relationship with the student and how to be flexible and a problem solver. And prime example, when I taught you, I think I had introduced match grip and you were playing traditional grip. And so I said, okay, well, I want you to learn this. And you did. It took you a while to get adjusted because you had always been playing traditional, but I wanted you to learn that so you could have both sides. But the other thing that we connected because you told me you had been playing at church. And I said, okay. And most of us, that's our foundation and that's how we start out. So right there, we had a connection.
Right.
And I knew that, uh, you had a good foundation and that was a good place to start. So I'll say one of those things, just learning how to be relatable, how to stay relevant, and how to be flexible and adaptable and do what's best for the student and not just what the teacher wants to do.
Mhm. Yeah, cool, man. So look, we can go ahead and let's jump back towards the well. Let's see. We're gonna kind of.
Hmm.
I don't want to skip you, Prof. I don't want to shortchange you, but I'm so excited to talk about my time with you. So,
Oh
but cool.
yeah.
Let's we'll go back to the beginning. So let's start in high school from the from
Hmm.
grade transitioning all the way up to uh
Hmm.
going to Tuskegee. So ninth grade, the name of your high school was what again?
Midfield High School.
Okay, midfield. So let's talk about the program in midfield and how what and what kind of influences and impact that that time have prior to you getting to Tuskegee from ninth grade to.
Well, Midfield was a competitive marching, well, not just marching, but just competitive program overall.
Mhm.
Core style. We had marching band, we had a symphonic band and a concert band. We had a jazz band, and of course, you had to audition for every group. I think the first 2 years we played match grip on the snare line.
Mhm.
No, first 2 years we did traditional grip. The last 2 years we did matched grip.
Mhm.
And it was interesting because when I got there, I knew how to play snare and how to read, but I didn't know how to play mallet percussion, timpani. So I had to audition for the either the one ensemble or the concert band. I think my freshman year I got in the concert band, but I still had to learn. We had a private percussion instructor come in and work with us. Still
Mhm.
had to learn how to play scales, how to tune timpani, and all of that. And with jazz band, even though I grew up playing in church, I still had to learn how to read the charts and
Mhm.
not just play what I wanted to. but understand how to apply that and really, play jazz. So
Mhm.
that was good. Also, my last 2 years, well, I was section leader my senior year of the
Okay.
battery because we had a battery in front of summer. So I was section leader of the battery. And my last 2 years, I did the UAV honor band, and I did solo and ensemble. So those experiences really, and I also got the top 5 musicianship award
Mm.
um, my senior year. So all of those experiences helped to groom me for what I'm doing now. So it was a positive experience at Midfield High School.
Cool. So, you said you guys were core. So you went to
Hmm.
ask this. You overall you chose Tuskegee as your original
Right,
location.
right.
Were there any
Hmm.
other schools that you were considering in that time, and what made you choose Tuskegee to be your school coming out of high school?
I chose Tuskegee because I wasn't going to major in music. My original plan was to do electrical engineering as a major and music as a minor.
Okay.
But I also looked at, prior to that, had I considered music, um, I'm trying to remember back then. I want to say maybe Jacksonville State University because our band directors came from there.
Okay.
And I looked at Alabama A&M University because I had been selected to go to a recruitment fair that they were hosting at 16th Street Baptist Church there in Birmingham. And it was another school, Talladega. They came to
Ah,
recruit it. Yeah, but at that time, they didn't have a marching band. They just had
okay.
just a regular, I think they may have had a concert band at that time.
Okay.
But again, what influenced, and I'd also looked at Florida State, believe it or not,
Okay.
just because I like Florida State football team. But yeah, when it came down to the final analysis, Tuskegee, because my original intent was to be an engineering major until I got involved in the classes, and
Mhm.
I found out that my passion was really music. And Mr. Duncan and I just talked about majoring in music ed versus majoring in music performance, and pros and cons, so forth and so on. So that's what determined.
Cool. And even for let's put this out there for college students. Like once you go to school, just because you have a vision to go for one thing, it don't always
That's
pan out.
right.
Nothing wrong
That's right.
with switching.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Because you still learning yourself. You know what I'm saying? Especially your
That's right.
first and
That's
second
right.
year. Some people third year,
That's
you
right.
still learning yourself. So yeah,
That's
cool,
right.
bro. So and it's I found it interesting. Did okay, your band director at Tuskegee, he recommended you go to FAM. Did he transition to FAM at that time also? Or
No, he was a graduate of Florida A&M.
oh, okay, okay.
Okay. Yeah, he was a graduate. He's originally from Jacksonville, Florida. He finished FAMU, and he moved to the state of Washington, and started out as an elementary music teacher. And he wanted to be an orchestra percussionist.
Mm-hmm.
Well, his friend, who I believe they may have been classmates or whatever at Florida A&M, called him and said, "Hey, we have an assistant position." So he came back to Tuskegee as an assistant band director. Then the head director left, and he became the head director
Okay.
of Tuskegee, and until he retired just a few years ago.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, by him being a percussionist, he had a professional jazz band. I believe the name of it may have been Smoke, and they would play around town in Tuskegee. And so I got a chance to see him play drum set, live and all of that. And he would give me private lessons, outside of just regular classes.
Mhm.
And we worked on different things. And he would talk about his time studying at FAMU with Dr. James and what he learned. And he even showed me some of his music that he wrote for a senior recital. And I was like, man, I said, well, I want to change my major. And I would have stayed at Tuskegee had they had a major in music education, which they used to have years ago. But they just didn't. They only had the minor. So that's what influenced me to transfer to
Oh,
Florida.
cool. All right. So this, I'm gonna start. I'm gonna go to your job. First band director
Okay.
job that involves me. So I met you when I was
Hmm.
in sixth grade, my first year coming out of elementary school, going into the
Hmm.
big dog house. I thought, middle school, and I still remember I was short and round. You were tall. we walked in that band room. We started talking, and like you said,
Hmm.
as time progressed, we found out about drums. I don't know. I think I may have saw you set up somewhere, and then
Hmm.
I know you let me play drums in the class,
Right.
and then
Right.
I was like, oh, Vincent. So like you said, we connected through that, and
Hmm.
over time, I said, and you actually, you cared about us, and then especially like I'm gonna say myself because looking back over and just replaying in my mind, I saw how you kind of you took the initiative to help, kind of push me in a lot of ways, especially introducing me to reading. I ain't know nothing
Hmm.
about it. I never been in a band before. Because sixth grade band, then we weren't playing with the real middle school
Right.
band. We had our own little
Right.
thing, so I still
Right.
hadn't done band. So you can introduce me to everything I didn't know about band reading. Then and you motivated me, and you pushed me, and you got me into the all West middle school
Hmm.
thing.
Hmm.
And I remember that. And my mom used to love you. She was you told her what to give me the practice pad, the little round practice.
Yeah, the Remo practice
Yeah,
pad.
yeah, with the stand. And I want to say I almost still got it somewhere. I can't. I think I do. But man, I remember that. I'll never forget. What I'm saying, having you and you being very influential into me developing and all this stuff. And I always said to myself, I said, man, if Mr. Hall would have stayed, I could have been cold. You know what I'm saying? Because
Mhm.
after my middle school year, you left. I was like, what was I came back looking for you. So well, after that first year hay review, where did you end up going? Well, let me ask you
I
this:
went.
Was I
Mhm.
bad? Uh, was I bad?
No,
Okay,
no,
that
no.
shit.
You look. You were one of the better ones.
Okay, yeah.
We had no. And now that you mentioned, we had some students in that class that should not have been in there. They got put in there by default
Right.
because PE was crowded, and
Mm-hmm.
that happens a lot at a lot of schools,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't think is fair to the band director
Right.
because when you use sometimes, and I hate to say this, but some administrators would look at putting students in band as a quote unquote dumping ground.
Mm.
And they know the students don't want to do that, but they say we'll just give them an elective, and that's not fair to them or the band director. They don't want to do it,
Right.
and that was the case. But no, my original intent when I moved there was to work full time and go to Memphis. It was Memphis State at the time, part time. Well, through teaching private lessons in the community at Overton and it was another middle Colonial Park, I found out about Ole Miss and Ricky Burkhead. And
Okay.
so I applied and they offered me a graduate assistantship and a fellowship because of the racial past with James Meredith and also because they wanted to get more diversity,
Mm-hmm.
in music programs. So, it's something I thought about and prayed about. And I said, well, if I can go to school full time, I'll just do that and knock it out versus trying to work full time and go part time. And that's what happened that next year, because it happened over the summer. I had applied, but I didn't hear back until after school got out. And another person who had kind of encouraged me rather, to consider going full time was a librarian at that time.
Okay.
I can't even remember her name, but
I can't remember her
she
name
had
either.
got a master. She had got a master's down there,
Mm.
and so that's what happened. I went to Ole Miss, and did my time there as a grad student, and then I got my first job, which was Hampton University,
Oh,
as assistant band director and percussion teacher
yeah.
after graduating.
Yeah, man. I promise. I was going down a certain path with you in sixth grade. I remember I couldn't wait because I didn't. Kids we didn't know what happened until we get back. So my got
Right.
through, and you had me going. Like you were very very on it. You were like
Hmm.
you do this, Vince. You work on this, and I was what I'm saying I was receiving it pretty well. And then when
Hmm.
you left, I was like, well, I guess I do what everybody else doing because I'm young. I'm six. I'm what 30, 12, 30, 12 years. No, how was I? 12, 10, 11? I don't know how old sixth graders are, but I was young. So I didn't have nobody to, push in on me. And then that's when I kind of, well, actually, I went and started playing football too,
Hmm.
seventh grade. And then I was
Hmm.
doing, in between because we
Hmm.
do both then. So yeah, so you went, so now I know you left to go to,
Ole Miss.
Ole Miss, and then you got in at Hampton. So
Hmm.
So let's talk about your time at Hampton because I didn't know about that one.
Hmm.
So how was that?
Hampton was good. I worked with Barney Smart. He's unfortunately he passed, but that was my first college job. I was teaching. I taught music theory, 1 and 2, oral skills 1 and 2. I served as the concert band director because we had, we had the wind ensemble, and then we had our concert band, and I taught, of course, applied percussion lessons to the music majors, and I also taught percussion ensembles, um, percussion methods for music ed majors, and I was over the drum line. Hampton was new to me because um, it's a different style, on the East Coast in the MEAC than probably what I was accustomed to down here, in the South. And so the students were telling me, we just got to get our skills up, and the biggest nemesis or rival, I don't want to say nemesis, but rival was Norfolk State, pretty much at that time. And so when I found out that William Bethea, who's one of Prof's students, was assistant band director percussion teacher there, when Mr. Smart and I went to the first game to see Norfolk State play Virginia State, he introduced me, and I told him who I was. I said, yeah, Johnny Lane's my mentor, and I studied with Ricky, and he said, yeah, I know, da da da. So we talked, and I asked him about his approach and his philosophy to what he did to make Norfolk um, just into what they are, because they've always had a great program. And so he told me what to do. And the first year, it was kind of with the drum line. It was kind of what I want to say, learn, feel, and go, because I was new. I was getting used to students, fresh out of grad school, want to change the world. But I had to realize, you know, what was important to them was not just being great percussionists, but they wanted to feel successful in the marching area. And so we grew to like each other. And I would say going into my second year, I had a plan off of what would work and what would do better. And by doing that, that set the course for success in the marching percussion area and for the studio. And we also, were fortunate. We had some guest clinicians come in. We had Prof Lane come in, and Dougal Chancellor, Terry Lynn Carrington. I got a chance to work with the Virginia DC chapter of their Percussive Arts Society, presenting a clinic, and also played with the York Symphony Orchestra there in York, Virginia. And I played with the University Orchestra in Hampton, and also played with one of the faculty members on his. He did a faculty recital, which consisted of gospel, jazz, all of that. So it was a good time at Hampton University.
Oh, cool.
Really was.
How many years did you do at Hamilton? Hampton.
I was there. I was there for 2 years,
Okay.
and then the summer. That's well, right before the end of my second year. That's when I found out about the potential opening at Tennessee State, and so it was like, well, do I stay up here on the East Coast, or move back down south to be close to my family? And I thought about it. I said, well, because when I would go home, I didn't go home as often. I would go home only on holidays. And so I
Right.
thought about it. I said, well, and it was going to be a little bit of a pay increase and everything. So I said, decided to come back down south, and the rest is
Ooh, you went to Tennessee State.
hmm
Then from sixth grade to a senior,
hmm
I had no clue what Mr. Hall was. So I get ready to my senior year. I set up an audition to come to
hmm
Nashville. I came to Nashville to audition because I was like, I'm going
hmm
to Tennessee State regardless. And so
hmm
came up there to audition. I heard. I think my mom mentioned the name. It didn't ring. It didn't click. So I
Hmm.
knock on the door. Open the door. I'm still short around. Look up. Mr. Hall. And there you were. Tennessee State. You
Yeah,
convincing. So I was
yeah.
like, man. I said I was geeked the whole time I was there. Like I ain't seen this guy in so long. And I remember, like I said, you remember that short that wait 1 year.
Hmm.
And I as a young, even as a young person, I can get genuine feeling, how people genuinely feel about me, or
Right.
how they perceive me. And I really knew that you cared about me and being successful. So I've always had that fondness of you, even from
Well,
sixth grade, and it carry over. So I saw it like, man, Mr. Hall. So I was happy. I was excited the whole time. You let me do my audition. You like, Vince, you got to work on such. My head, I'm like, you left. So I didn't get it. I didn't have an instructor after you. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, man. So I did the thing. You auditioned. You gave me. Took care of me, and I ended up coming not '06, but spring '07. I was actually
Right.
in your percussion ensemble class, and I
Hmm.
tell people to this day, like, that was the best class. The one class I can always remember was that percussion ensemble class, because we did the spring concert, and we were
Oh
playing,
yeah, yeah,
but we were playing with paper,
yeah.
newspaper, garbage can. Like, man,
Mm,
that joke was straight. I was happy. And then I was in there with Alex. I was just speaking about Alex. That man
hmm.
was so cold, like Alexandro.
Oh yeah,
He was
yeah.
dude, man. And just learning from those guys, and you doing your thing. But let's talk about your experience at TSU. Not what I'm gonna go back to what you said at the beginning, staying relevant and
Hmm.
understanding um what works for the current
Hmm.
generation that you're working with. And I've always,
Hmm.
I listen and I observe a lot. So I remember the guys from Tennessee State talking, and they always say, man, Prof Hall, he knew what he was doing. And they was like,
Hmm.
you never had a dominant personality to where, let me come in, I need to do this my way. Like, you weren't about that, and you were about, okay, let me see what's working for y'all. Cause you just explained with Hampton, you
Yeah.
observed, you let them work, and then when you needed to insert some or
Hmm.
whatever, you did, and
Hmm.
you had that section respect. Like, what I'm saying, easy. So what was that experience like working with Tennessee State? Let me say this. They were cold. They were killing those years you was with them, for sure, for sure. But what was that like?
Well, um, and before I forget it, the name of that piece that you played on is Pulp Fiction. It's by
Okay.
Roloff. You may want to do it with your students. It's a fun piece.
Yeah.
Roloff production. It was fun. I never forget when I got to Tennessee State and Prof Lane introduced me to Patrick and Bobby and uh, Derwin. We call him Meatloaf. I bonded with those students, and we still talk to this day. And Terrence, I mean, it was a positive experience. And the reason I said that is because you're right. You have to. I look at I look at teaching like coaching.
Uh,
And if I want you to buy into my vision, I'm there to serve you. I'm there to meet your needs. And so I have to ask you, well, what is it that I can do to help you? And that's what I came in to do. One of the books that I read a lot during that time was The 21 Qualities of a Leader by John Maxwell. And I often refer to that book. But I never forget when I would go home after band practice, I was staying in a hotel temporarily until I found my apartment. And one of the students were very helpful with helping me to secure an apartment real quick and church home, Mount Zion, and also just getting acclimated. So I have to credit that to the students. But I would go back to the hotel after practice. I had my practice pad out, practicing, and I would read that book and just say, okay, I need to grow here. I need to do this better. And I always wanted to be someone who the students felt like they could relate to, or that they could lean and depend on, because a lot of times, you know how it is working in the drum line and working the drum line, or the percussion section is often looked at as not quote unquote legit with the rest of the group. because we're always in the back. And a lot of times we don't always get the attention and the care that we needed. And so the students were happy for me to be there. So I wanted to make sure I gave 110% no matter what. I wanted to make sure, if anything, they would say that Prof Hall was here and he cared about us. And that's I learned myself, from every job that you have, you learn what works, you learn what doesn't work. So I learned through trial and error and life lessons at Hampton what to do better in the next situation. And different situations, same thing. And so that's what I did. And I would tell anyone who wants to be a percussion instructor, whether you're on a secondary level in public school or at the college level, the best thing to do is to ask whoever's hiring you, what are your needs? What are you trying to do to get the program to go? What's the vision? Where do you see the program? What do you want to do? And then meet with the students and ask them what they see themselves doing. Because I could come in all day and say, well, I want Tennessee State to be this, and that. But if I never take into account, well, what do the students want, then we would never form a bond. And you got to form a bond to, be able to see. And you're right. No, the section itself, what I would do, I would get the section, the section leader for the snares, for the tenor drums, for bass drum, cymbals. We sit down after rehearsal and I say, okay, these are our cadences, right? And we say, okay, this is a list of the marching cadences. This is a list of the show or stand cadences. And I said, okay, we need to do this. That needs to happen. We organized a time to practice. We met with Prof Graves, who was director of bands at the time. And I said, okay, we're going to practice on these times every day. So that way we managed time, and it worked. We came up with a system and it worked, and everybody, they committed to it. And if you weren't there, you paid up, you did what you needed to do. But I looked at it like a family, and that's why, like I said, to this day, I see any of those guys on Facebook or in real, when I come there to judge, I miss them. I just think now I'm trying not to get too emotional about it, because I just had a good time with those students, and I'm so proud of everybody. I'm proud of you for what you're doing, but it just means a lot when you are able to connect with the students, and you really can you can have a good bond with them, and you really relate to where they're coming from.
Yeah. And I promise, Prof, everything you saying, I feel everything you saying. So,
Yeah.
and it was the short. Like I said, I did the semester. Once again, it's like that sixth grader going into seventh grade. I did the semester. I'm in the band for the fall, so I'm getting ready to go in. Oh, so that summer, I'm doing my little bit of working out and prep. And Kyron called me, or I was over his house. He's like, hey, Prof Hall ain't coming back. I'm like, what? I'm like, where he going? I'm like, I didn't even get to play. You know what I'm saying? Play with him. So you did, you moved on to, to another level. And we had Dr. Dames come in, and the rest is history as far as that's concerned. Tennessee State, what was your next move?
Well, I had started on my doctorate at the time, and unfortunately, my contract was just, year to year,
Uh,
temporary. So, because I hadn't completed the doctorate for the faculty requirements, university wanted someone with a doctorate. So, that's what happened. But, I moved back home to Alabama, took some more grad courses at the University of Alabama on the doctoral level. But after doing that, um, I had to push pause just for financial reasons. But even while doing that, I taught adjunct at Alabama A&M University. I also taught adjunct at Miles College, and I taught adjunct at Stillman College. And I was just hustling. And when I say adjunct, I was teaching the percussion majors. I was not, working with the drum line. But what I did do, because the band directors were impressed with my teaching ability, I would go over concepts and things that were not only applicable for concert percussion in the lessons, but something they could take out and use on the drum line. And we really focused on, being able to uh, play at a high level in the rudimental style, executing your rudiments to the high level, reading, and how to apply that to what you were doing. And the good thing about it is, because of the traditional style, rudimental style, most of the programs that I'd worked with, they were playing in that style. So it was an easy fix. And so that's what I did. And I also taught some in Tuscaloosa City Schools. So I did that for the next few years until, I got my next gig, which was Alabama State University full time. And then, there for 2 years, and then got contacted by the professor at the University of Georgia, and I had written an article about him for the Percussive Arts Society, and he called me and he said, if you want to come study with me as an independent scholar, there's a high school gig coming open in Georgia, and you can move over and be closer. So I did that. I moved over here, did that for a year, and then we got COVID happening. Well, in the midst of that, I said, I miss being in higher ed. So a buddy of mine called me and said, hey, they need a percussion instructor at Point University. And I applied and I got hired. So that's why I'm still in Georgia. But that's the short version
Yeah,
of how in terms of teaching. So I kept on teaching,
yeah,
just different situations, life happens.
right. And the current school you're at now is what now, Prof?
It's Point University in West Point, Georgia.
Okay, cool, cool, cool.
Hmm.
And that's what's up, Prof. Man, so and like I say, from the time from what 1999, I think that's when I was in
Yeah.
second grade,
Yeah.
until 2021.
1999.
Yeah, to 2021. Whenever I needed you or asked you anything, man, you've always been an ally. Even coming up to judge a battle, one of our battle of the drummers here at Whitehaven. So, man, I just
Yeah.
appreciate
Yeah.
you, man. I really, really do. I really appreciate you, Prof, and everything you've done. And for me and in my life and all this stuff, throughout
Well, you're
all this
very
music
welcome.
stuff, man. And I know the guys, from Tennessee State, Pat and Terrence, and they when they see it, man, they're gonna be amped about it because those guys were very, like you say, very fun, like family, like for real, for real. So
Oh yeah. And Bobby's parents got that nice when I come back to Memphis, I gotta go to
barbecue blood,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, man,
And Memphis was nice. I mean, nice people there, Isaiah Rouser,
yeah.
uh Cedric Keel,
Mm.
met him at Memphis drum shop.
You went to
And
Whitehaven,
I played at Bishop Patterson's church
huh?
because
Thanks.
uh, Mr. Banks was the orchestra director. So he remembered me from teaching at Havenview,
Okay.
and he called me and said, hey, well, he actually called my teacher at Ole Miss.
Mm.
And my teacher told me, he said, yeah, they need a teacher, principal percussionist to work with them. And so he prepared me in my lessons, and I auditioned and got accepted and played at Patterson's church.
Yeah.
My while I was still there in grad school, and taught out in First Baptist Collierville in their Academy of Performing Arts as their private percussion instructor. So I had some good times in
Yeah,
Memphis.
bro.
I do miss. I miss. I got to come back through there.
Hey man, hey, well, Prof, you did a lot of work, man. You know, I was little, I was young, I had no clue, man. But you was just getting it in, Prof.
Well, I mean, Vince, I just always been trying to just stay active and stay relevant. And matter of fact, I got a website I want to share with you all, with your listeners, but I also want to share with you that I've just recently been given um, from one of my colleagues in the Percussive Arts Society. It's called pocketpercussionteacher.com. Pocket, Pocket, percussionteacher.com. And matter of fact, I'm going to text you that right now
I put
so
it in
you'll
my
have
notes while
it.
you were talking. I got it.
Okay. And that's a good website. Percussion specialist out of Texas created that website, but it's good reference. It's a good resource for information and things like that. I think are relevant to help students because you're right, and I feel bad about it now because um, I didn't know that that was the case. That you didn't have after me. You didn't have instruction in middle school, but
Right.
that happens. That happens so much, and I'm glad you didn't stop. But when I see a situation like that, I want to make sure that if anything, I can be a help because I know a lot of band directors in the classroom, and we don't always see what they're going through trying to juggle multiple classes and also meeting expectations of the administration. And for any band directors that are watching, I just want to tell you that to keep on doing what you're doing, and know that you're not taken for granted. Yes, I'm teaching in higher ed and academia, but I'm successful here because I learned what it took while teaching public school.
Mhm.
And I tell anybody that, if you want to be a great teacher, start teaching public school first and teach private lessons in the community. I also did that at the same time because, I did some things at Amro Music
Mhm.
while I was there at Havenview. So I just did step by step
Mhm.
growth. I didn't go from A to Z. I
Mhm.
went from A to B to C to D. And people see, oh, you up here. Well, no, it wasn't all. That wasn't always the case.
Yeah, the
You know,
grind.
I had to grind,
Yeah.
and I did stair step,
Mhm.
movement.
Yeah. And probably don't feel bad for me, man. You know, that's just how life take you, man. It worked out. You know, I
Yeah,
figured it out. I got it. But you instilled that understanding to
yeah,
you opened the book for me and you
right,
started me on and when you have you're young and you have other distractions around and your friends doing it this way like so you do
right.
it that way but as time progressed I've always remember I got a pretty good memory. My mom used to think when she told me this story when I was little she thought I could read
Hmm.
when I was like 3 but all I was
Mm.
doing was remembering the words she was saying and I just read it back to her so but I can
Oh
remember
wow.
pretty good, man. And so, what you open, you turned to page one for me and you started me, on it. And as
Mm.
life progressed, I got in it and it's working out, man. And I know if I ever need you, you'll always be there. So you ain't
Oh
gotta
yeah.
feel
Oh
bad
yeah.
about that problem, man.
Yeah.
Everybody's in it's a reason for everything. So
That's
it's
true.
coming full circle and it's gonna hit again. So yeah, man,
That's right.
I appreciate you, problem, man. I really do, man. So
Yeah.
I ain't gonna hold you up, Prof. It's getting late in this old evening. I think it's about
Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
9 o'clock for you. So yeah.
Yeah.
So man, I appreciate you, Prof. Is there anything you want to share? As far as like being at Point University, how to get in contact, auditioning, what the program's about, what you guys do, for the
Sure.
people that may be watching and be interested.
Point University is a private Christian liberal arts university. If you go to marchingskyhawks.org, it's marchingskyhawks.org. You'll see the information about auditioning for the band. My email address is teddy.hall jr, teddy.halljr at point.edu. and you can email me and contact me about auditioning. But we are a core style program. We have a battery in the front ensemble, and we try to do entertaining shows. We also have a concert band. We have percussion ensemble. Right now, one of the pieces I'm working on with the students is Escape Artist by Eric Raff. Um, from Tap Space Percussion. And the program is very small. It's not that big. It's a nice program, but about 90% of the student population is on some type of financial aid.
Mhm.
Everybody in the band receives a scholarship.
Mhm.
So, because it's a small private university, there's some flexibility and allowance if that's what you're looking for. But even if you just want to contact me to ask about percussion, or if you want me to be a consultant, or just to advise you on how to build your program or whatever, please feel free to reach out. But besides that, I appreciate you contacting me, and the opportunity to just share a little bit. And if anything, just use that resource that I gave you, pocketpercussion.com, and share that with as many band directors and percussion specialists that you know in the Memphis area, because I know the students will benefit from it.
Cool, bro. Man, it's no problem, prophets. I gotta pay homage to everybody that's been a part of my life. So all these
Yeah.
interviews is people that so that I appreciate and value. So you definitely one of the you in the top five for sure.
Well,
So
thank you.
yeah,
Thank
man,
you.
I appreciate you, Prof. So I ain't gonna hold you up, man. So for the rest of Chop Nation, always
Yeah,
remember the chops don't stop. Y'all have a good
that's
one.
it.
This is VRoc Chops.